I'm not sure if I'm here. Okay. So for the last few weeks or services, we have heard about servers or ministers at the church. Has been preached about what does it mean to be elder, what does it mean to be deacon, and then the last service was about biblical church, basically, which is kind of all connected. And today we want to dig into what is a faithful servant. Or a lot of us probably know about that because none of us is today in faith, but more than 2 days, months, and years. So therefore, I'm pretty sure every one of us has some kind of opinion or statement of what is faithful servant. And of course, we have a lot of examples in the Bible. We're going to go through some of them. We're going to look into them, but we want to also go to a character that not very much is looked into it. Something that it's not that famous, somebody, and it's not that common to preach on it. So therefore, we want to look in his also actions and his deeds, and then from there we can have some observations taking home and try to apply them. I'm pretty sure every one of us applied a lot of faithfulness in his service to the Lord, or brothers and sisters, or neighbors. This is great. I remember in the very fresh times of my remaining here, of me coming United States, just months later, I think was a storm, a huge storm, and a huge tree fall down on our neighbor's sort of a house, besides the house, and thank God hadn't broke the house. But then Brother Chris, me and some others went there to help, and his statement was, hey, that's what neighbors do, help each other in needs, in time of need and in time of disasters and so on. So this is something like a servant heart and faithfulness as well there. So every one of us, I think, had something like that to do, but we want to dig into somebody that is not that famous in the Bible. So before I go there, I'd like to omit a few names that we all know about that. And and maybe I can kind of little ask you, if you guys have some in mind, you can just say it. But to me, faithfulness or faithful servants recognize in a great or extraordinary act. Somebody does very extraordinary, and it's recognized by this, and then it's really everybody knows that, hey, this is really a huge faithfulness to his deed. If you think about Abraham, what's the one word you could use to describe it? If any one of you has an idea, quickly say it, and then we can go over it. One word for Abraham. If anybody asks you, hey, how would you describe one person with one word, which is Abraham, for instance, what would you use? Okay, somebody said faith, somebody said faithful. Yes, I agree, absolutely. He's the father of faith, or he's the one that really practiced that, therefore, yes. And in Hebrew 11:8, this is where the apostle says, by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. And this was act of faith. You don't know where you go, and you still act on it. You don't know what's going to happen, but you still act on faith. So this was Abraham. He did really act, and that's why all descendants in faith are his descendants, basically, just like the sand on the shore or the stars of the heaven. This is his children, or we are also his descendants in faith. What about Joseph? It's basically his grandson, Joseph, who, how would you describe that person? You know, we can go on and on in different names, and I'll go through it, like I said. And I described him as a provider of foods. At his time, he did save that part of the global, or this world, basically. He went, in Genesis, we read from 41 and chapter till from 46, 49, and then 57 says, this is the man who 7 years went throughout the Egypt and basically stores the whole food, all the grain what was at, so he can save not only Egypt, but all around the nations as well. So he was the provider. God chose him to be the provider. What about Moses? What do we know? Like, how would you describe with 2 words about Moses? Or 1 word? I describe him as the second book of the Torah, which is Exodus. Really it is. This is the man who exiled, who is the man who basically saved from slavery. And really it's Exodus, what I can describe for Moses. We all know about him. And of course, 1 more word is coming to my mind for him. It's law. He's the man that God gave him law, that basically identifies and signifies one, not only people of group or some kind of tribe, but it's also, that's the birth of a nation, where there is a law, where there's regulations, where it's a structure, where it's a system that everybody, if follows, then that's how defines by that rules. So he's the man also of law. As we read Exodus 20, this is the 10 Commandments, but also the whole Deuteronomy is full of law. Not only that, he is the man also God gave the instructions how to be the temple, how to be the altar, how to be all the sacrifices, the different type of sacrifices, and so on and so forth. Another big name, Elijah. What do you describe this person with 1 word? How do you describe it and what's known for? He's in the king's, basically, era of Israel. And he was, I believe, with 1 word I can describe it, or has been helped to describe, as he was really a spirit-filled, someone that has been also called a man of God. The one that says 3 years will not rain, and it did not rain. The one that says going to stop the sun, and it did stop the sun. The one that says, hey, I want this to be consumed by fire, this sacrifice, and has been happened. But also the one that hid himself in the cave from Jezebel. The same one, yeah? Again, he was spirit-filled. How about his servant, Elisha? What is well known? He was well known by a double portion of the spirit of his master. As soon as you talk about Elisha, that's the first sentence comes to your mind, or the one those of us that they're digging into scriptures and knowing well and practicing, this is how you kind of basically immediately come to mind how you describe those people and what you're taking for yourself. So really he did receive the double portion of his master, the double portion of his spirit. And if Elijah had 7 big miracles God did through him, then Elisha, guess how many he did? 14, yes. And the 14th he did not see, he did not experience, but was by when he was dead, basically. His dead bones resurrected one soldier. You know, you can read that in the 2nd King 13th from 10 to 24, and then you can see really that's the 14th miracle that he did not personally saw or experience. And this is from Old Testament, so many others we can talk about and just go through it, and lives and characters. But today I want to go through a other person, which is, we're going to go back to Genesis 24, and the verses is from 1 till 27, and it's talking about a senior or a main servant of Abraham, a one that Abraham entrusted all what he had, everything. Remember, I mean, imagine, Brother Chris, all what you have, all your equipments, all the land, all the cows, all your family, all what your descendants. You have a one person you're entrusting, and you're saying, listen to me. I want you to do a promise to me. I want you to put your heart, your hand upon my heart, or somewhere that it recognizes the intimacy, and I want you to swear. I want you to promise something to me. So as we read down the story, and we're going to read it just kind of to pass through a specific moments. Basically, he's sending to take a daughter-in-law or a wife for his son Isaac. And interesting wise, he said, go to my land, to my people, to my, to my nation, and take a wife for my son from there. This is what this I want you to do. Do not, but do not take my son there, because the Lord promises something that needs to stay, or this land, to me and to all my descendants. So the first observation here to me is, for those that are not yet married, take consideration, take your partner, or try to look for your partner that is from the nation of Christ. Those that they are really seeking and searching Jesus Christ, because this is something from the Old Testament has been established. Go and take from your own people, that it's in your, basically, from your blood and flesh, and what God actually wants that to do. Not only that, but also if God told you that he's going to do something, and he promised you to stay there, and you went out, Abraham went out of his father's household and land, then he did so. Not only before he died, he says to his descendants, stay here. This is the land that God is going to give you. Therefore, was important to him to stay really strong and fast to that promise that God gave to Abraham. Further down the text from 5 all the way down, the servant asked, what if the woman is not willing to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you come from? And Abraham said, make sure that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who brought me out of my father's household and my native land, and who spoke to me and promised me an oath, saying, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you so that you can get a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to come back with you, then you will be released from this oath of mine. But only do not take my son back there. And I like to stop there. So, again, we're seeing here that he wants his son to stay there. He wants to fulfill complete, without no compromising the God's promises or ask for him. Um, and he also prophesies that angel will go before him and help him to find um, this particular person or partner for his son. What interesting is, he swore, he promised that he will do it. He took camels, he took servants, he took gifts, he prepared himself. That's another faith. First of all, his servant, I don't believe, was from Abraham household. I think maybe it was somewhere, I believe, this is my personal opinion, was somewhere another maybe tribe or people that was willing to serve his master with his all animals and so on that he had. And he accepted his God as his master's God and his own God, first of all. Not only that, but he took gifts, and he said, well, my master said that angel will go before me, then I better be ready to take all the presents I need to give to this young woman's family. Not only that, but he also prayed. When he went up there to the next town, I'd like us to see the prayer he prayed, which is very interesting. Then he prayed, Lord, God of my master Abraham. He did not say God of me, my God. I know you personally. I walk with you. I know you. I believe in you. I've seen your miracles. No, he said, my master's God, my master's Lord. But he's my master though. So, make me successful today and show kindness to my master Abraham. It is his request. It is what he wants. And show to him a kindness or favor. And see, I'm standing beside the spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar that I might have drink, and she says, drink, and I will water your camels too, let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. Now, this prayer is short and very specific. He didn't say, hey, tell me your will about that. He didn't ask his will. He said very practical thing. Look, I'm standing here in front of the town. There is a well. All the women are coming to draw some water. And the way I'm going to recognize it is, if I'm going to ask her, please give me a water, but she also not only gives me, but also wants to do the same thing for my camels, that's going to be the sign that this is what you choose for your servant Abraham or his son. Very simple, isn't it? I mean, simple, specific prayer that he might need to be, he needs to have a sign that this is his will. He didn't ask, hey, God, what is your will? I don't know what to do. He just really, really practically, he kind of point things, and we see what happens afterwards. So the servant hurried up to meet. So after that, in the 12, when he prayed, and then 15, before he had finished prayer, Rebecca came out with her jar and her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milach, who was the wife of Abraham's father, Nahor. And down the story, we're seeing that he asked her, she offered. Not only that, but also he started to, he wanted kind of to look for her parents, her family, to know exactly where she comes from, if there's any really relatives to Abraham. And she understood that. He understood that. And he gave, at that place when he was sure, he worshiped and gave praise to the Lord. He didn't wait, well, I don't know, we'll see. No, he just worshiped, he praised to the Lord. Not only that, but when he asked her a question. Okay, do you have a place for me to stay for tonight? She said, oh yeah, we have place. And she went up there and her father prepared a place for him and his camels. And they prepared a great a dinner to have together, a supper, hospitality. They practice. He said, I'm not going to eat before I tell you what I come from. He was pretty honest. He said, the mission is not yet accomplished. Just because this was confirmed, just because God sort of heard my prayer, and I saw, and she did that, I still need to talk to her parents. I still need to talk to her whole family and tell her everything what happened, which is from the beginning, from the oath he gave to Abraham. So he explained what he had as wealthiness, what kind of person he is, how wealthy he is, how smart it is, and everything. Then afterwards, he's his servant, and he serves to a Lord that he promised him something. And afterwards, he gives a swear that he's going to go from his people to pick up a wife for his son. And then he shares his prayer, what he prayed to God. And then he shares also that Rebekah came and did the same thing what he prayed for. And surely, the father says, surely this is from the Lord. What can we say? And then afterwards, he said, okay, now what is your answer? What do you say? Like, am I going to have your daughter to bring her with me tomorrow or not? And of course, she had the free will to say so. She has been asked. And yes, she went up there. So his mission was accomplished. But the way how he did it, how specifically, how faithful he was in all of his mission. From the beginning, he went to the town and prayed and asked and went with the gifts. And then he very gently and investigate her from her family and from where she comes from, because this was a part of the mission. He had to understand, he had to know that those was relatives from Abraham. And then, then God chose her, and he took her to his master as he traveled and went up there to bring her to him. So shortly to that story, to this particular character that is not much talk about or not much seen about, what do we learn from him or his character? We don't know his name. We don't know where exactly he comes from. We only know that he was a very faithful servant to Abraham. But then he was committed to the promise, to the swear he did. Not only that, he prepared himself. He required his own action to prepare himself for the mission, which is gifts and servants and camels and so on. He had to apply a faith that did not belong to him, meaning God wasn't his personal God. It doesn't say so. It was his master God. But he had to apply faith for it. He had to say, okay, if you're alive, you're the Lord of my master, and he said you're going to send an angel, then I'm going to pray. And he prayed for it. Please make successful my travel. So, just to that point itself, when we go somewhere, when we are having a promise to God, we're having promise to each other, where we want to do a mission to someone or to somewhere or something in our prayers, in our service, in our coming Sunday mornings, or we're going back home and we want to visit someone, then pray to be successful. And prepare yourself. Be initiative on what you are going to do by faith, by hope that God will make you success um, yes, as he acknowledged God, he is alive of his master, he also asked for and successfulness and kindness of his master. He draw a conditions to his prayer. And a lot of times we don't want to make God to do what we want to do, but a lot of times I think helpful when we have some conditions practically and shortly, but then full with faith and life in it. Hey God, how do I recognize that? It's by this, if I have it or if I experience it. A lot of times for me personally works one word. God, if I'm going to go somewhere, if I'm going to do something, I need to have your peace, calmness, and joy. As soon as I have that, not only in my emotions, also in my mind, in my spirit, then I do know that this is God's will. I do know that God has me there to that point, to this people. Yes, this is His will, and He will make me success. And a lot of times, really, it is that. A lot of times, it is that. Right, so He gave, He didn't say, well, I want to choose it. Send me 5 of those and I'll choose. He said, maybe your choice. Whoever you send, that's going to be your choice for him, for his master. So this is another point I want to make. After his prayer were answered, he also continued to investigate, continued to make sure that this is the right thing he heard or he saw. Then he went to the house and talked to her parents and also to her family. And then what? He didn't eat immediately. He didn't drink. He didn't say, hey, let's celebrate. And then in the morning, hey, actually, it's about something that I came from. And his father said, well, you ate and everything. And, it wouldn't be that a little weird? No, he said, I'm not going to touch anything from that table. You welcome me, that's great. But before anything, I need to tell you why I came from. What's the reason I'm here? So, what's the reason this morning you're here? What's the reason when you really stand in front of the Lord? What's the reason in front? Yeah? And tell the Lord. Tell the Lord why you're here. Why do you seek His face? Why do you seek His hand at the same time? Because it's important. Not only He knows your motives, but a lot of times I believe God wants us to hear our motives as well. Make sure we understand our motives, because most of you are parents. A lot of you as parents know, okay, what do you want? If your child wants something from you, you want to make sure he understands why he wants it, right? So, again, that's something that we also might need to take with us. He was honest and firm to his mission. He did repeat everything, and he was without compromise. He followed basically, hey, I'm not going to stay 3 days here and party with you. I'm going to stay tonight and take the package with me. That's it. If you agree with that, then let's do it. Let's pay an agreement. So he did not party there, just like maybe some could do. So therefore, this is something that I personally learned from it, and I want to apply it more and more in my life and daily basis, not just maybe once in 5 years when I go to missions. Because in daily life, it's so many moments that maybe the Lord asks us to promise Him and to do for Him, and then we are to do it diligently and very with a huge attention, so He can really be pleased, because that's what He wants from us, to be pleased. I'd like us to also pass through a few other names Testament, which is, for instance, Mary, the carrier of the Son of the Lord. She was unconditionally obedient and totally, fully willing to be of what she was chosen to be, right? And she was a carrier. In Luke 1, we read about Mary, how, yeah, she asked, okay, how that's going to happen? I'm virgin. Well, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and you will carry a conceivement, a seed from the Lord itself. And she said, so be it, let it be. I'm here, I'm surrendering myself. How about Peter? Peter was from Kepha. He has been named a rock. That's what it means, Peter, rock, that the church will build upon him. He was the main speaker of the group, and God yet still certainly choose him to give this responsibility. In Matthew 16, we read there on 17, 18 how he was from the Lord chosen to do that. Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, as he had confirmed he who was Jesus Christ. After that verses, but the Father in heaven. And then I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. A great promise, a great promise. What about Paul? Paul, which means small of Hebrew, a servant of Christ Jesus, called to be an apostle and set apart for the gospel of God. We read that in Rome 1:1. Big names, most educated person in the New Testament. Most educated, most knowledgeable, and one of the probably jealous for what he was doing. Probably he was prepared to be a high priest, or of that point in time, a religious government. And yet, from Saul, he went to Paul, really small. But then yet, we see 1/3 of the New Testament is written through him, or God through him, yes. So, another very, very big name to our faith. But the greatest from all servants, the greatest faithful servant till today and forever will be, as we know, is Jesus the Christ himself. The one that he said in John 5:15, truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself, but he can do only what he sees his Father doing. Because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. And in Philippians 2:6-8, Paul describes Jesus Christ basically, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather than he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. There is no other measurement, but only Christ, the only example of completely, fully, 100%, and more than that, faithful servant to all of us, to every single person and creation as well. Jesus the Christ, who was God and became man, and then man as a God. And because of him, you and I, today we have this opportunity to not only remind us, but also to practice faithful servancy. Faithful servancy with his power, with his love, with his care. Because to us, to our just human nature probably will be short on that. But when God is with us and we are initiating, acknowledging, and wanting, and longing, and obeying unconditionally, He will fulfill us with everything we need so we can faithfully serve Him, but also serve the others that God puts in front of us in our journeys of life, so we can really share the care and the love of Christ. There is no need really to say or act, I'm serving God, but then have struggles to serve people. Then really there is a huge gap there and not matching together. Because one of the biggest fact of that is exactly that verse, Philippians 2, 6, 8. Jesus, or the Son of God, did not come in any other flesh, in any other form, but human being, but blood and flesh as you are. And that itself stamps, and it's a fact that we are to ministry and be faithful also to every mankind and human being, because this is what He took upon Himself to save and serve. And also, we are on His image created. Now, this is the last person I want to admit it's a big deal also after Jesus Christ, that sort of it's in the Bible, but also it's in life itself. It's you, we, you and I, basically. That's the other big name, that how we are going to be described from our generation, from the next generations, with one word. How they will remember you. If we remember Abraham with faith, and Moses with Exodus and law, and Mary with unconditional obedience and totally fully giving, being okay, I will be the carrier, or Paul, then you and I, what your children or your grandchildren or your neighbors or your grandchildren or whoever there back in decades will tell about you with one word to describe. And if whatever they say, if that's going to glorify the Lord, if that's going to be something that will point Jesus Christ, because we don't want to, glorify someone, or if someone is good, okay, but then still it's not for the glory of God, then again it's out of point. So therefore, I encourage you to be like this faithful servant. He didn't ask for a glory or anything like that. He just did his mission. He went back to his master, but he did accomplishly and successfully. He really brought the bride of his son, basically. And, if you think about it, maybe, Abraham would be the representative of the Father of heaven. And Jesus Christ is his son. Then we are to be the bride. But then who is going to be the faithful servant to bring the bride, basically? Isn't it also somehow you and I included in it? To bring to his son, Jesus Christ. And therefore, be encouraged and be alive in your spirit, in your prayers. And maybe sometimes it's okay to have conditions to the Lord, because God will understand, and God, He knows, and He sees. He wants you to understand and see His will. And this was for Him accurate. So I'd like to invite the praise team up, and just kind of closing with that closing moment. We just want to take home that opportunity, that gift of faithfulness in our serving as a servers. If we look ourselves as a servers and nothing else, then it's much easier really to remain in that faithfulness. no matter what position we have, whether in our work, whether at school or home, there are some roles we're taking because of life. Still, we are mainly remaining servants in the Lord. And if that's really it is alive in you, I believe it will make much more easier things to, okay, I'll go and do what I've been asked for and do what my part is with all my heart, be faithful to that, and God will reward what He wants to reward and all of it. So, yes, that's kind of the message I want you to bring home and share with others, with your life and with your words as well. I'd like us to, with one song, and then would like to ask Mr. Chris Bryant to close with prayer, if that's okay with you. All right. Thank you very much for your attention, and yes, thank you for all.